All right, dudes, let's go ahead and create ourselves the options menu. I mean, not create, but hook it up. The reason for this video, of course, is because you will run into some questions when you're making your menu, and I will attempt to answer them preemptively before you hit the particular wall that you might hit. And you will also immediately see why, menus are usually very just tedious and boring to make. Now, before we go on any further, I just want to take a look at what we have. Now, of course, I've created an options menu here, and this is just a small menu. I just created some basic things that you will most likely need in your menu. But before we go over each element so that I can explain what each element does and how it will be hooked up, I just wanted to go into my HUD here because last time, if you remember, I had a trouble explaining to you how to bypass the double click situation. I forgot that you need to set the input mode to game and UI. Not only check for validity, of course, but you also need to set the input mode to be game and UI. Now, of course, I'm doing this on the actual HUD widget, but because HUD is UI, we shouldn't really have a problem there. Again, if you are running into an issue where one of your menus does not get automatic focus, you can either use a focusing widget. So I think this will be working just fine. Focus. Last time, of course, it didn't work too well, but this should be just fine in this case scenario. If it doesn't work, then it doesn't work. But for now, it's fine. So that's how how you approach this and solve this particular problem. Now, with that being said, we should open the main menu so that I can run through what exactly I've done here. Sorry, the pause menu. The main menu is still empty. I haven't done anything with it because, generally speaking, for the main menu, the procedure is a little bit different. But the options menu is usually universal between, between the pause menu and the main menu. So it's safe to assume that if we make this work correctly here, it'll work just fine in the main menu. So what have I done? Let's just actually play this real quick so that I can explain everything I've done. So if I press Q, currently, actually before we do that, I should explain how this thing is hooked up. Now the entire menu set here rests on a thing called a switcher. Now the menu switcher right now, of course, is set to be, I should probably check this guy out as well. That'll ask me whenever I make a change. So I'm going to set this to 0, and I'm going to check these two out. With the exception of the warm HUD, because that is not necessary. I'm just going to revert this guy back. Refresh. Well, I don't want to save this. I thought there's no revert because I didn't make any changes, but then again, whatever. Forget about the HUD. What I want to show you here is the way the switcher works. Now, you will most likely use a switcher on your own end as well. However, a switcher is not a necessity. It's simply something that makes it much easier to swap between different menus. Essentially, it's like a tab, browser, right? So each tab would represent a menu set. And of course, your active widget index is going to be from 0 to however many widgets you have. And each widget each child basically has its own index. So my options menu, which I've created over here, and I've dragged, it has its own, of course, named slot because I need to be able to use the back button to go back into my main menu. So what I've essentially done is added these two objects to, as children to the menu switcher. And then I will be simply driving this widget index through the graph here. And whenever I press the options button, I will set the active widget index to 1, which will bring up the options menu. And then, of course, when I go back, I will set the active widget index back to 0. Now, again, this is not the only way to do this. Of course, you could have, you could toggle visibilities based on clicks, right? You could grab a button or a menu set and just toggle its visibility based on that. But I really don't think that's necessary in this case because, honestly, that we're not really going to have that expansive of a menu. Now, with that being said, let's just play this real quick so that we can we can see how this works. Now, the resume, the restart, and the quit buttons, they don't have any functionality yet, but their functionality is just extremely simple to set up. So in fact, we should probably have a main menu button somewhere here as well. But for now, let's just keep it simple. And we're really focusing on the options here. So resume, restart, and quit, you should be able to figure out on your own how to set this up. And to be honest, you should be able to figure out how to set up the entire menu set. But there are some caveats here and there so that we can go over them. First of all, of course, you'll notice that this doesn't look good at all. I mean, if you take a look at even this isn't centered, sound, graphics, this stuff just doesn't exist. We don't have any resolutions yet, but let's go from left to right and actually explain what each of these things are. So first of all, I'm just going to go into the options menu here. First of all, we have a key mapping selector. So input key selector is what it's called. And these empties over here are exactly that. It allows me to click on it and it will be waiting for an input, and I can use any input that I want. It could be left mouse button, could be H, could be whatever. Now, I believe this one also allows for modifier keys, so I've allowed for modifier keys. I will probably remove that privilege from the player because, well, you know, we only have 3 controls. There really isn't necessary to add extra complexity for people to be able to, you know, make these different modifiers. So I can do something like this. Actually, for some reason, 2 modifiers do not work. That's interesting. I thought you would be able to support. Well, 2 modifiers don't work. You can't actually stack them, but you can have 1. And again, you don't really need more than 1 in any case, unless you're making some epic space simulation and you need a button for every damn thing. You also have an exit key so escape will cancel and basically terminate my previous choice. So that's how it is. Oops. That's how it goes. Then we've got a color picker, and of course this isn't hooked up either. So we have sliders which, you know, have a particular value, and we can drive them up and down. And the idea is that this, of course, is an image, and these spinners here will drive the tint of the image, so the color of this image, and we will use this color to add to the player using this mask that I've created. Remember, I created this in Painter, exported it, and I have this mask right now, which will be the stripes on our players, and each player will have his own selectable color. So that's nice to have. Again, this is a very rudimentary customization, but again, for a game like this, customization is probably the last thing on your mind. Then we've got, what else do we have here? Oh yes, of course, then we got the sound. Now, the volume is, of course, going to be normalized, so we really don't need to have volume like this. Like, this is a ridiculous volume, right? This is just insane. So we're going to be running from 0 to 1. Graphic-wise, we need to grab the resolution. We can't actually fill out any resolutions that we want. We need to be able to support player-specific resolutions, because somebody can play this on an old monitor, on an old rig. Somebody could be playing this in like 4K, right? So every resolution, like basically, we need to be able to fill this up with the supported resolutions, and we also need to be sure that these resolutions are valid. So there's that. Then there's the resolution scale, which is frankly the easiest and most it's the easiest way to ensure performance. Essentially, what resolution scale does is it halves, or like it's usually, it could be either normalized, but it could also be super sampled. But let's just say that at a resolution scale of 100, you will be rendering at, let's say, 1024 by 768, and this is what we'll be rendering. Okay, this is what we'll be seeing. Now notice, if I actually maximize this, this will kind of get stretched, right? This will get stretched because even though I'm rendering at whatever resolution, this is still sort of a 1280 by 720. Yeah, so that's the resolution that we're playing, and this is the resolution that we're rendering at. Now, if we drop this down to, let's say, 50%, and there is a minimum resolution scale, so the minimum resolution, I believe, is 540 by 480 or something like this. But basically, this tells the graphics card to render only a resolution of, let's say, this much, right? It would be only this square, and then this square would be stretched over the entire monitor. Even if we're playing at, let's say, 4K, we could drop the resolution scale down all the way to 500, 440 by whatever. It will always be a percentage, of course, of the running resolution. And this will mean that even though we're running at 4K, we're still rendering only, 20% of the actual pixels. Now, of course, the picture is going to look like crap at that point, right? I mean, it's just like any picture. If you zoom in too much, all these pixels are gonna be a nightmare for you. That being said, though, this isn't really a concern for us because we will allow the player to be able to set up. Of course, in this case, the game is just so it's not hardware intensive at all. I really like this is overkill. In reality, we don't even need quality settings, right? This should be able to run on pretty much any rig, any machine out there, because it's very basic. There isn't a lot of stuff. But again, depends. You know, it's nice to have these things here, especially resolution wise. Also, full screen and VSync, I will probably add them later on my own. But the method of hooking these up is the method of all of these is actually pretty much the same. So you shouldn't really have too much trouble figuring out how to hook up a VSync or a full screen windowed or windowed borderless modes. So with that being said, we could go over into the quality settings. Now the quality settings are essentially that we've got low, medium, high, and excessive, aka epic, aka unreal, aka just mind blown. I put excessive here because it just fits nicely. But anyway, the point is that we need to set this up in such a way that you can only enable one of these checkboxes. I've made them blue so that it's easier to see when it's checked. Of course, there's different, you can skin this however you like. We are only interested in the functionality right now. And because we're not going to be, again, this is a very small game, I'm actually going to hook up every single thing in here. So low will be universally low, medium, these are like presets, okay? And you will see what I'm talking about. These are the settings that we'll be accessing. We go here in the settings and you take a look at engine scalability. You've got exactly that. You got resolution scale. Let's drop this down to 1%, which is I don't think is allowed. Let's just go for low. Everything is low. At 25% is what we get. And if I play this, you will see that we're getting really nasty. Like, look at this. Like, we're currently rendering 25% of my only 25% of the actual resolution is being computed by the GPU, and this creates huge issues because it looks ugly as hell. But hey, it's very optimized. Like, this will run on a toaster, no questions about it. This thing will run on a toaster right now. It's just that easy. Of course, you'll see that we got some problems, such as, for example, shadows are missing, right? That's considering that we're kind of gauging where the actual ball is based on shadows. This is probably not ideal, so we may need to add some kind of I don't know, some kind of position identifier or something to the heads-up display, maybe somewhere here at the top that will show where the ball is whenever it's off screen. So when it gets shot too high, it will of course not be available to the player. Now. And these errors, again, these are just from the ball looking for tags that don't exist, but that's fine because it's just a tag. It's not a major issue. Now let's go back to the settings and just pump this up to epic. Of course, you could go to cinematic as well, but that's just ridiculous. And yeah, so these are the settings we will be actually looking for whenever we're hooking up our menu. This is how the pause menu works. I'm just going to close this again because we don't really need this. And in fact, I'm going to set this back to 1 so that whenever I pause, I will automatically have these so we can, for quick testing. And I'm going to close this guy. And we're going to go back into the options menu set. Now, one thing to note here as well is that whenever you're creating menus, now this is a very dirty way of making a menu because I've got loads of buttons and a bunch of things that might require styling, such as, for example, the color picker or maybe the actual, these input key selectors. I want to have like a specific border around them or a boundary. And essentially, whenever I decide to make a change, I will need to select all of these. So let's say I decide to, currently, if we click on empty here, we'll see that it says no key specified text is empty. And then whenever we say key selection text, it's currently 3 dots. So I could say, let's just say press any key, and then the no key specified text would be the actual binding of the user. Now, if I go ahead and compile this and play, you'll see that I've only changed the first one. If I click on the other one, it will still remain the same. This means that I have to do this 5 more times, because if I select these separately, let's just go ahead and select the left and the right, you'll notice that I actually don't have the option of changing what's the content inside. So that's the behavior-wise, this is an issue. I mean, not behavior-wise, but appearance-wise, this is an issue because we can't really style these at the same time. Look at the style is gone. Actually, I do have it here. All right, there we go. I can actually change it. Well, that's very nice. I didn't actually notice this. So let's go ahead and do this on each of these guys. Selected all of them. I'm going to say key selection text. I'm going to say press any key, and I will compile and play, and we should be having the exact same. Okay, there we go. Excellent. Now, this is where the logic comes in, right? We first of all need to display what these buttons are, and then we should not allow for repeat buttons to appear. So I shouldn't be able to bind, you know, I shouldn't be able to bind this to left mouse button, this to left mouse button, and this to left mouse button, right? This doesn't make any sense. So there should be probably some escape keys or some keys that are not allowed. And this is where you handle it, right? If I click here, you'll see that I've got escape keys. Now these keys will remove the sort of the these will remove basically exit out from the selection. Currently it's escape, and of course it's also gamepad special right, which is the start button, I think, on the gamepad. But you could also add a lot of these out here, and you could select, you know, allow gamepad keys or allow modifier keys. I'm gonna remove this, by the way, because I really don't need this. Let's see if we're able to do this for each and every one of them. And again, you will notice that I have to select all of them just to make a simple adjustment. There we go. We'll remove this. We're not going to allow gamepad keys just yet because, you know, we're not going to be setting up gamepad controls for now. Okay, so I have this. Again, remember, if you had one of these, because imagine if I had, you know, I don't know, some kind of an RPG or something where you have loads of different buttons, left, right, dodge, jump, climb, I don't know, menu, cast skill, cast spell, cast, I don't know, special attack, parry, block, basically a bunch of different commands, and I'm going to have quite a lot of things. And at that point, you might not even create the menu in this method. You would probably, what you would do is create yourself one button, okay? So this would be, let's say, one text button. In other words, you'd be creating a widget, okay? You'd be creating your own widget here, one text and one button. And then what you would do is, through a loop, you'd grab all the available controls and populate your vertical box with the particular settings that, you know, you're looking for, because you might add actions, remove actions, right? It's a lot more scalable than just hard dumping stuff like I did, because this is just simply text in a vertical box. You know, these are horizontal boxes inside a vertical box, so kind of like a grid. And I actually think this is a grid. Let me see. Is this a grid? This should be a grid. Yeah, this is a universal grid, a uniform grid panel. So you could use any method that you want. Of course, it depends on how you want to approach this. Again, make sure whenever you're creating these to have named slots so that you can actually hook this up to other widgets, because if I didn't have a name slot, I would not be able to use this back button, because this back button is actually part of the pause menu and not part of the options menu. Reason being that I cannot actually have a back button in the options menu and change the switcher. Remember, this is a switcher, right? There's a switcher here, and this is index 0, this is index 1. If I had this back button in my pause menu, I would not be able to grab the switcher from the, like, there's no way to grab the parent, right? And even if I did grab the parent, I'd have to cast it to a switch. It's just a huge pain in the ass. So generally speaking, you'd be much better off using this. Okay, so that's something to consider. I'm not sure. Can I grab the parent? Can I get the parent? Let's see. Get parent? No. Parent? No. There's no way to grab. There's parent. Oh, you can grab the parent. Okay, so you can get the parent of this guy, and then you could, let's say, because this would be presumably a switcher, so you would have to cast to switcher, widget switcher, and this would return true, and then from the widget switcher, you'd have to grab and say set index, set active widget index to whatever. But this means that you have to, this would assume that you have to know, you know, which index is that you want to go to. So back would go where? Like options could be inside a settings menu, so the index should be 1 instead of 0, because the settings menu would have other things such as, I don't know, multiplayer settings or whatever. And options are specific for the local client. Maybe you want to set it up like that. Now, of course, this isn't It's just a way, it's just an approach, and you could pick your own. You could decide which is more appropriate, but I decided to have simply a name slot because this allows me to use this in the main menu as well. And it's not a lot of work just to hook up an extra button with a very simple, with a very simple logic. Okay, that being said, I believe I went through all of these in general. We got actually, spinner boxes. Spinner boxes are essentially something that allows you to, let me just grab these and make this so that at least they fill up the place for fill, so that we can more clearly see this. Actually, let's grab this as well and make it filling as well, so we can fill all this stuff. And let's go ahead and grab and put the sound in the middle, so that's something as well. There we go. Now this is of course styling. It's not necessary. Wait, this is justification, need positioning. This is of course styling. This doesn't really work. We don't really need this, but this is just styling. And again, you would probably be better off doing this when you're running a polishing pass. But just so that I can show you guys, it's more clearly visible what I'm doing. I'm gonna do a little bit of cleanup here. Now, the spin box allows you, as you've seen before, to dial in, click with the left mouse button and simply move it left and right to get a particular value. It's not unlike the scaler, the slider. Yeah, so the slider as well is a very simple thing. It allows you to, well, slide from left to right. Now, of course, it's not part of anywhere. Perhaps if I grab this and add this to, what if I just add this to this box here? Somewhere here then, at the bottom, and if I compile and play, I've got a slider. And I could grab the slider and move it left and right. Now, of course, it's going to have a value. Generally speaking, sliders are from 0 to 1, I think. I don't think you can have, well, you could have more than 0 to 1, but this is the style. We don't need style. Yeah, I think it's 0 to 1, isn't it? I just need to find the value where the damn thing is. Yeah, there's the value. So you could actually have more than, yeah, you can have some from 0 to 1. There's no way to have more than 0 to 1. That's the reason for the thing. But because we have a actual spinner, we can have more than one, and we can, of course, in both cases, we can pull the value off, and there's all sorts of styling settings such as colors whenever we, background, foreground, when it's active, etc., etc. But something simple. Do whatever you want on your end here. Then, of course, you've got yourself the checkbox, which we will need to actually create a radio button for it. Now, unfortunately, right now there isn't really a radio button in the Unreal Widget toolset, which I think is an oversight because radio buttons are fairly commonly used around, and they're just annoying to set up. They're not difficult to set up, but they're just annoying because essentially what you need, like I said before, is to figure out which one is pressed and then remove the rest of them. Okay, so you can't have both low, medium, and high at the same time, right? If you select excessive, it only needs to stay on excessive. The other ones have to be disabled. Okay, I believe I've went through the most common ones, and we're going to start with the center. And we're going to start with the volume because we need to get we need to have a variable, right, that is persistent between gameplay sessions, and that is also like we could create a save game file for that, which is possible, and we're going to talk about save games later. But a save game is pretty much a structure, and whatever it's not a structure, it's just like it's a class of stuff that holds variables, and it could be anything. Like variables could be volume, player character, player position, could be inventory. Everything that you need to save, you can save in a save game file. Now, I'm not going to create an entire save game file just for the sake of volume. Not to mention that it's fine to put the volume in your HUD, because if we're going to have multiplayer here, you don't want the host to be able to set the volume for every client. So every time you connect to a player, and if he's got his music blasting or maxed out his volume, and you don't want that, you're going to be forced to listen to whatever settings the guy has. So that's something we need to avoid. Therefore, we will add a volume float over here. So I'm going to just do that. Call this volume, and this is going to be of type float. Oops, not of type name, but of type float. Now, there's a way to do this. We can use a configurable file, .ini, so to speak, or .config, or whatever you want to call this. Essentially, it's a text file with a bunch of, strings or characters, and these characters represent particular commands, functions, and they hold particular values which will be read from the hard drive, not at runtime. Well, at runtime, well, it doesn't matter at runtime. We need to set it up so that whenever you run the game, the value gets updated, okay? So if I go ahead and look, we've got the config variable, which is the volume, and if I hover over it, it's going to say, well, should this variable be read its default value from a config file if it is present? And of course, you will see that we've got the config file location and the config file section. Now, configurable files are very useful because you can do a lot of things with them. Like you can have different builds. For example, you can have a build that doesn't have the menu enabled at all, based simply on a configurable file. Because let's just say you want the menu to be tested by some other guy. Like if you have a huge game, you don't want to be sending the entire project to one tester. You simply want to test one level. You need to have a configurable file saying, well, we only want to build this particular level. And that's final, okay? So there's that. Now, how we're going to get to this file is essentially go to our project folder, go to Worms, Volleyball. This is, of course, the Perforce workspace. And then here we've got the config. Now, this is where you might run into a pitfall because this is the configuration file for the editor, okay? This is for the editor. If we open this up, editor preferences, I believe. No, sorry, project settings. This is not for the editor. This is for the project. I'm lying to you already. The project settings, you'll see that you've got these settings are saved at default game.ini, which is currently not checked out. So this is version controlled, and this is what we're looking at right now, right? These settings are saved over here. But of course, we don't have a lot of stuff set up. We don't have homepage, no legal, nothing. So this configurable is pretty much empty. But there's others, of course. You could check, for example, the default engine ini. I'm pretty sure this one is here. There we go, default engine ini. So everything that is here is saved in this text file. And you've got the default input. Then everything over here is supposedly saved in this text file, but it's kind of, oh no, there we go. So we got a bunch of these here. W, which is up, S, right, we got all these. These are axis mappings. For some reason, they exist where we don't actually have any S or whatever other axis mappings. But, oh, well, we've got the actual axis configuration for the gamepad. So with dead zones, etc., etc. So that's what we have over here. But really, this isn't what we're aiming for. We need to find the other one, which is in saved. Now, the save bit is basically your game. The save bit is, different backups from autosaves. You got crashes here. You've got your, once you build the game, you actually have your build pre-cook whatever project, so that next time you build it, it's going to be faster. You got your different, your diffs, assuming you start diffing, and logs, of course, with all these different logs like backups, and it's going to say, well, we did this and that. These are just the console outputs. Over here, these are the, let me just close this. These are these. Oh, where's my console? Okay. Where are you? Developer tools. We just need the output log. We don't need the message log, but the output log. That's the stuff basically that gets outputted in your, in these text documents. Now, what we're looking for, of course, is the config section here in the Windows, not the world state. These are just some JSON files here. I'm not really sure what they're for, but I presume that has to do something with the map itself. Then you've got the crash report client. This basically happens every time. This happens every time your client crashes, which happened 4 times so far. Therefore, I have 4 of them. And then you've got the Windows, which is the stuff that you're actually looking for. Sorry, I'm just talking a lot. I need some monster to lubricate the overall cords in my thorax. Now, what we need to look at is the engine.ini. This is the one that we need to look at, because if we hover over here again, it's going to say, well, the config file is at windows/config/windows/engine.ini. This is here. And then if we take a look here as well, we also have the configurable section, which has to be square brackets, game, GUI, options.options_c, which basically represents the class of the widget that we currently have created. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm just going to hover over here so that we can easily see. There's no way to copy this over, so we need to do this by hand. We've got the game slash GUI slash options underscore C. Oh, was it? Yeah, C. And then we need to close the bracket. And then here we need to say the name of our variable is volume, and it equals by default 0.6. Oops. And I'm gonna basically save this and close this. Right. So I need to set this to be configurable, by the way. So that would be nice. And then I need to hook up my volume slider to the value of this variable, right? Now, let's first of all bind its value before we start setting anything up. And we're going to do this by going into my... Why do not... Oh, I need to click on it. We're going to do this by clicking onto my... And we want, by the way, this to be normalized. So I'm going to say that my minimum and maximum values are going to be 0 and 1 respectively. And then I'm going to bind this to be... Actually, I didn't even need to do that. That was unnecessary. So I'm going to apologize here real quick. Because we have... I'm going to remove the binding. We actually have... we need to compile. We actually... Okay. Please get checked out. Yeah, okay, I'm going to check the worms out. Clearly, this thing wants it. But I don't even have... Oh, come on. I don't have to create a binding because we do have a properties called volume. And of course, this is just a simple thing. There's really no need to create a function just so that you can hook up the one and only single variable. And that's why this thing is available here. I'm just going to delete both of these because we're not going to be using them. And if I compile... We've got this, it's hooked up to the volume. If I compile and play, my volume is 0. And that is because we're playing inside the editor. And this is a configurable file. It needs to be read either from, it's being read either when you start the editor or whenever you start the game. So we need to cook the game, and we're going to do this in we're going to play this in a standalone game. I'm going to save all of these. It's going to take a little bit to build it real quick. This is just a pre-build, right? The development build. It's going to be a little bit longer whenever you're packaging it. But this should be just fine, and our volume is not showing up. Why is it not showing up? We ran into a little bit of a problem here. I wonder if I increase this to 0.5, if it will actually do something for me. It's a little bit finicky, but trust me, this will work. Most likely on your end, it did work. But if it didn't... You know, it's unfortunate, but it should. Yeah, we're having trouble reading this because I just set it up to 0.5, but volume is set to 0. I think I may have to restart the... actual... Yeah, currently default value is 0. I'm just going to compile and recompile this. Let me just take a look at the engine here. Yes, we do have the correct path, do we? Yada yada yada. This should be variable should be read to use value from configure by it's present. Should be .ini. We're reading engine.ini. Options.option. Did I miss something? No, I don't think I did. So this is unprecedented, but let's go ahead and do it again. So if I make a configurable variable and play, save selected, this should, in theory, read it. Yeah? Okay, this isn't reading it. Okay, well that's quite weird because it definitely should be reading this through. Let's go ahead and actually, on construct, let's print a string and see what's the problem with the volume. Let's go ahead and also make this public just in case. You don't need this to be public, but it should be. You don't need it, but it should help, I think. It will help if I just close this. Let's run this in editor first. I think maybe I just ran this in editor and I fucked it up for some reason. Yeah, maybe that's what happened because it should be here. Let me just do this again. If it doesn't work now, I'm not going to waste time. This is how it's done. I know it works, so it must be some problem. Maybe I need to restart the engine. I'm just not going to bother with that. On your end, this will work. I can guarantee you this is going to work. And, you know, at the end of this video, we might try to fix this again. But for now, I'm not going to waste any more time on this. And what we also need to do, because the volume, of course, is currently set to 0, And by the way, it will be red. It will be red. It will be set to 0.6 that we have here. Let's maybe, I don't know, maybe use a space, an enter. This really shouldn't matter. And also it shouldn't really matter if you have it like this. This is also not an issue, but let's try this one more time. And play. 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 Yeah. Can we play? Okay. For some reason, this does not want to just do what I'm telling it to do. Yeah. There is an issue. We also need to set this, by the way, later as well. So there's one more thing to do. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna solve this later in the video, but for now, let's just keep it at that. As far as you're concerned, this works. Okay, this definitely works. Now, next we need to also set, because the volume is not actually set, we need to be able to set this through. We need to grab an event here on value changed, because we're going to change the value, and the in value will be will set the float. So we need to set the float, and which is the volume, of course, and we need to set it to whatever the value is here. Maybe that's why it didn't want to do this for me. So let's just say that we're going to do this just now. So currently the volume is assigned to the number, and we should be able to set this up and down. So we can set this. Let's set this to something like this, and then we're going to exit out and play again. Okay, Jesus Christ, I'm going to save the damn thing. Yeah, I'm going to check it out. It's very annoying that you can't. Once you check something out, once you change something, you either need to revert it or not save it or whatever. Yeah, it's not being read just yet. Well, that's annoying. We'll sort this out later down the line, but this is how you hook up the actual volume spinner. This volume will be adjustable, and we can use this variable in, whenever we spawn a sound. So if there's something like this, play sound, and this play sound will take a volume multiplier, and you'll simply dunk this volume multiplier here, which is of course from 0 to 1. Since we maxed it out from 0 to 1, that's the minimum and maximum value. It's not going to be bigger than that. So we're not going to really have an issue with sound. Unfortunately, there isn't, of course, a global volume thing. You need to do this every single time you play a sound. You need to essentially do this thing where you hook up the volume to the sound. So that's how you do a global sound. And then you can have different volumes, right? You can have a sound effects volume. So let's just say we had an SFX volume here. So we would go ahead and multiply that. Multiply a float. I just said multiply F. It's still, okay. Okay, I don't know why it doesn't want to multiply a float by default, but let's just say that over here coming in, I'm going to have my master volume, and this would be my sound effects volume. So currently, let's just say it's set to 0.2. These are my sound effects. And here, I'm going to have my master volume, which is 0.8. I will multiply that, and then whenever you play a sound, you will use the resulting volume here. Of course, you could have a macro or function or whatever, something that gets you the volume, the final volume. So you could have a functional library, and then you could have get sound effects volume, get this volume, and then in the background it will just be a pure function which returns a float, and depending on the type of the function, you're just multiplying different things. Now that being said, I'm going to delete this, and we're going to move on because this is just taking a little bit too long that I like. We're going to go into resolution, and that's another issue that you might run into, because how are you going to populate this, right? You could do this by hand, right? You could grab your default options, and you can just keep adding a bunch of them, and then let's say these are my default options, right? 1024 by 768, and then 1150, well, what was it, 11 something by 800 something? I forget the actual numbers here, but you can easily imagine what our setup is. So I'm going to just remove all of them. There really is no point of using them because I want to fill this up using an array and a loop. By the way, you will do this. We're going to just do this for the resolution, but most likely in an actually big menu, you don't want to be doing this by hand. Okay. In other words, just like we're going to fill up this combo box, which is just a drop down, You would probably do the same for your controls, for your quality, because right now, remember, we only have quality that will combine all of these settings here, right? All of these settings. So what we'll be setting basically this. Okay, we'll be setting up this. These settings have all their own separate getters and setters. So if you really wanna, if you really want to do this, it might be much easier just to have something that populates your, your vertical box with the appropriate settings. Okay, so you would you'd do something like that. Also, you would most likely use pre-construct. And I did some digging because pre-construct was not available in earlier versions. Basically, this is just like the warning set, the actual tooltip says, this is a cosmetic only thing. So whenever you set this something up here, such as populating a particular, you can still use this in game, right? It's after you get constructed, but essentially this is for populating your menu. And instead of running the game every single time, right? Oh, it's set to 0.2. Yeah, for some reason it's currently reading the default value off of this, which it shouldn't. I really don't know why. Maybe it's not finding the engine INI. I really don't know what the story is here. Why don't you want to work? It is the engine INI, right? I'm just getting hung up on this now. It's just super annoying. Engine Windows, blah blah blah. Save. Yeah. Worms, volleyball. Yeah, I'm in the right spot and I'm in the right config section. So I really don't know why on earth do you not want to work. So I'll probably recreate this or something. We'll see. Let me just copy this, actually. Let's copy this variable's name and add it over here. Come on. And I'm going to equal 0.4. Oops, 0.4. I'm going to save this, close it, and maybe next time will work. Let's do this. Let's just test one last time. One last time. I promise this is the last time I'm doing this. What? What? How is it? How are you missing a file name? It's missing the engine INI? Okay, right, let's just do that. I think I need to restart the engine so that the damn thing realizes what I'm trying to do here. Yeah, let's forget about this. Just selected viewport, works fine. Okay. Now, in the event pre-construct, or in any event, you want to get all the supported resolutions. How are we going to do this? You simply say, well, I want to get all, get the supported resolutions. And there you go. You've got the supported resolutions, and this will output a resolution array. Now, there's no way to break this down, but if I were to get a copy or reference, and I were to split this, you will see that it's essentially an array of X and Y, right? You've got an X position and Y position. That's how you get your resolution. So if I wanted to populate this, all I would have to do is to grab my available resolutions drop-down menu, right? And I need to add some children, aka options. You will, however, quickly notice that the options are strings. They're not really resolutions. So we need to convert this to, a set of strings. So we need, of course, to have a for loop. Whenever you have an array, you need to work with the loop. Otherwise, how are you going to go and figure out what it is you're trying to look at? Now, if I break this down, you'll see that I've got an array element X and array element Y. What I could do is turn this to a string, and then here I could append, and I could add a pin here, say X, and I could do the same thing for the other side. And there we go. We have a string, which is an output, right? And in my output, I will go ahead and simply add this. Now, I'm doing this kind of haphazardly right now because this is not the whole story. You will see what I mean whenever we run into the appropriate issue. Let's just do it in an event pre-construct. If I do this in the event pre-construct, now hopefully this won't crash. Yeah, okay. You will see that I should have this populated. I do not. Very unfortunate. Why is it not populated? Because if I play, this should be populated. Right? But in the event pre-construct, this isn't. Get all supported platform resolutions for each. I think this has to do something with actual, having stuff inside the editor. Because I don't have, my array options are empty. So maybe this doesn't work in the event pre-construct. Probably better off doing this in the, I don't really I haven't used this a lot. Generally speaking, I just have it fired off on construct. Let's just fire it off on construction. You'll see that I've got my options here. And I could select whatever, right? So let's just say 1280 by 1024 or 1440 by 900. But you'll notice that my resolution, first of all, does not actually change. And also, I'm simply setting the, I'm simply setting the resolution. I don't have a resolution set onto something. So what we need to do is, let's just say, for starters, that we need to set this thing's set option. No, set selected option to. Well, how are we going to get that? Because we need an array. We need something, right, with the first one. So how are we going to do that? Actually, let me just see. Option. Get option and index like so. Index 0. And then you could set selected. And you could say, okay, this is how we're going to use the first index. We're going to set the first option. And you might think that this is all that we need to do. And you wouldn't be wrong in terms of this. What's the story here? We need a target, yes. You wouldn't be wrong because realistically, yeah, you want to have the lowest possible resolution whenever you launch the game because you don't know what kind of machine the player supports, and generally speaking, once they set it up on their own, it'll be fine. However, we currently don't have functionality hooked up. Even though we have all the resolutions, I can go for 3840 by 2160. Even still, I will not have my resolution changed because we need to change the resolution. Now, how does that work? Let's try this. Because whenever you don't know if something exists or how something works, it's almost always best to just right-click and just write down what you want. Generally speaking, everything is fairly well documented. So let's go ahead and say set resolution. Okay. Well, we don't really have anything. Now, you should go to content sensitive sometimes and just take a look at what we've got. Oh, we've got set resolution scale normalized. We've got, apply resolution settings. All right, that's exactly set screen resolution. That's exactly what we want. If I click on this, you'll see that it's taking a resolution, which is basically over here what it is, right? And if I go ahead and simply recombine this here and break it, what are you talking about? No, not vector. What's wrong with you? Just break. What the hell? Break. Oh yeah, I need to have context sensitive. My bad, guys. Sorry. So if I break this, you'll notice that I can put this in my resolution. So I could set my resolution to whatever, but it's kind of annoying because we want to have something that identifies the resolution. So we need to be able to hook up the resolution to the actual name of the resolution, right? Because this is the name, that's a string, it goes into the options, and we need to be able to grab whatever option is selected. As you can see, we're doing this right here, but it returns a string, and we need to be able to hook this here. Now you could, I'm not sure if you could break down a string. Can you break down a string? Let's see if we got any operations with string. Parse string to GUI. No, I can create. No idea. I don't know. I don't think you can actually. Contains. Yeah, you could, but then you could have to grab is numeric. Okay, you could do that, but then it's going to return true. I don't know. This is, of course, not the way to go, at least not the way I would go. What I would do, because we need to set the screen resolution using this node here, we need to create a map. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to create a map variable. It's going to call not available resolution, but supported resolutions. Okay. And this is going to be a map, like so. On one hand, I'm going to have an identifier, which is the key. I'm going to use a string. And in the output, I'm going to say, what was this? Int point structure. Int point. As you can see over here, we've got an int point. Now, since this is a map, it's essentially an array. And we need to be able to fill this out with a corresponding thing. Now, since we already have a for each loop, I could use this for each loop to fill out my map. And just, oh, sorry, my bad. Yeah, actually, that's what we need. I need to add something to the map. And I'm going to do this every single time. So this needs an identifier. I'm just going to unhook these guys. And in fact, I will probably delete this or something. I'm not sure what I'm going to do just yet, but definitely we need a map. So there's my map, and this map needs to be, of course, hooked in with the executable. Most likely you'd be better off having a special function for this, but for now let's just keep it simple. And I've got my append, right? So I need to add the key. Every time this loops is going to add the new key, which is going to be a times axb or whatever. And then I need to add the actual element, which would be, the initial element. And now I have a key value map, right? We've got all the keys, you got all the values, they're all paired, and now I have a full thing available to me here. This means that now I could go ahead and just remove this option, for example, hook this up over here, and I can setting the selected option is always a good idea, but why do I have 2 of them? Oh, I have 3 of them. Okay. Yeah, let's just keep it like that for now. Right? We want to set the resolution first. So how are we going to set the resolution? Well, over here, we need to grab our support structure, and we need to find, actually we also need to get this guy, available resolutions, right? And we need to get selected option, because we have to know what the player selected. Now we need to also find the value, right? The actual resolution in X and Y in terms of ints based on the selected string. So I'm going to say, okay, so we need to find, and there it is. We got to find something, and this something will be the same as this. So once we find it, we need to set the resolution to this particular, situation. Now, again, this is a very dirty setup, right? It requires, this is not the prettiest thing to look at, and definitely not easily understandable. So you might want to have a function for this, and we'll probably collapse this into a function later. But for now, let's just compile. It's going to give me a problem because we need what a target. And this is another thing that we need to consider. That's why I left a little bit of an issue, a little bit of space here. Whenever you're trying to set different things that require basically user specific, you need to use the game user settings node. And this is get game user settings. And this is the node. Now this node is living in this INI. As you can see, we've got game user settings, among other things, of course, such as gameplay tags, etc. But we've got the game user settings. And as you can see, it has some interesting things, such as resolution, such as window positioning, last user confirmed, whatever. You've got AGI display, is VSync enabled, is, what kind of version, audio quality level. We're not even going to set that. But, you could do it. You could use it. Now, with that being said, this is of course not the only thing available through the game user settings, because you could get the quality, and you can set the anti-aliasing quality, the audio quality, the foliage quality, the post-processing quality, the shadow quality, etc., 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 etc. You can also get it. So we'll probably do this. I don't know if I'm gonna feeling up for it, because it's just a lot of these. We're gonna hook this up in one giant function. It has to be done one by one. For our quality selector, but let's just leave it at that as it is for now. So I'm going to compile this, and the reason we need to get this, by the way, you have to get this every single time, okay? You have to get this every single time you try to modify this, all right? Every single time, which means that you cannot cache it. I can't go ahead over here. I can't even promote this to a variable. You'll see that it's grayed out, because we need the most current, up-to-date settings available, which will be read from the hard drive, or the SSD, or whatever it's stored, okay? Could be a cloud drive whenever you're watching this. I don't know what kind of machinery you're operating, depending on the time. But an interesting thing about the game user settings that you can also check if it's dirty. So if this is dirty, and dirtiness essentially means if you can even look at the tooltip, it says checks if any user settings are different from the current, meaning that it's going to take this and compare it, get the current basically settings and compare it to the default ones that are available on the disk, meaning that if they are, then something has been modified and we need to save it. So you could have a boolean here, not a do-in amount of times, my bad, a boolean, and you could have, okay, so if we have modified the things, we should probably save user settings. Okay, we need to go ahead and grab this as a target. But I'm not going to use the dirty bit, because I do know here that my, I'm just setting the screen resolution, so I need to save this for next time, okay? I could go ahead and save this. And these are my save settings. I'm not going to do that just yet, because there is one more thing to talk about. Whenever we set stuff in the editor is different from the stuff that we set in actual game, especially when it comes to game user settings. There's a lot of things that don't work the exact same way or flat out do not work at all in the editor when you're using game user settings. So in general, whenever you're testing those, you might want to run standalone games, because this would modify, if we had like a quality modifier, this will modify these settings here, and that's not what you want. You want to have to actually modify the standalone settings whenever you are running your game. So that's something to consider as well. But for now, let's just play and see what we've done. If I go ahead here, we've got a resolution, and if I change it to this one, nothing happens because, of course, nothing happens. We're in the damn loop. My bad, guys. I'm sorry. My bad. I need to run this after the resolution, after the loop is completed. Again, don't do this. Don't do what I'm doing right now. I'll clean this up later probably, but I want this to be a little bit speedier, so I'm not gonna just clean up this entire thing just yet, because I hope you're following up with me. You don't have to do this on your end. I'm just trying to show you how different things work. So I got my set resolution, but then, well, I need to set the resolution here as well. Yeah, okay, so that's it. So this now will be set to whatever, 1024 by 1024, and we also need to do the same thing on value change, because remember, if we select something, we need to be able to bind it. So as you can see on generate widget, I wonder if I could populate it through here. I have to check. I'm not sure if I can populate this here. I think I've tried before. It doesn't work that well. Okay, let's just do this. On selection changed. And we've got, oh, what do we have? A selected item. That's great, because we have a key value pair. And I'm just going to copy this guy over. Okay. So this time we don't really need to get a selected option from the available resolutions combo box, because it'll already present it to us. All we have to really do is find the resolution at the selected resolution. This will return something. So we need to get the game mode, get the game user settings, and then we need to set the resolution to whatever it is we found, right? So there's that. Very simple. And if we play now, we should be able to set this to whatever resolution. Why does this not want to work? Let me see. We've got the game user settings, supported resolutions, and then the set screen resolution. Okay, am I doing something wrong here? That's a resolution scale. Oh, we need to actually apply the damn settings, of course. Apply resolution settings. That's something as well. We can apply different ones. I'm gonna apply resolution settings. Yeah, it's quite tedious because of that. I'm just gonna copy this guy over here as well and just apply this on this side too, so that we can set it up to the lowest one. If we, what do you want? Oh yeah, it wants a target. Okay, and now we should be able to play this. Is it in a standard? Yeah, okay. Crap. What's the story? Okay, I should most likely play this in a standalone game. Let's see what happens. Save selected. Yes, I know. How is there a missing file name? It's right over here. Fucking balls. Let's so as you can see, we're down to 1024 by 768, and we could change my resolution to whatever it is I desire. As you can see, we're rising and rising and rising and rising and rising. And I wonder what's going to happen if I go to this. And there's my full screen mode with pretty much borderless window. But I'm going to keep this like this for now. And that's how resolution really works. Very, very, very simple. Nothing, yeah, it doesn't work that well in the editor. I mean, it does sort of, but, you know, whatever floats your boat. Now, this is, of course, very ugly. And ideally, you might want to actually have this wrapped inside a function so that it doesn't look so ridiculous, okay? And generally speaking, you might not want to have all your available resolutions to be set like so. But I'm just going to say, okay, you know what? We need to have a map actually here, okay? If I go ahead and make this into a function, and I'm going to call this resolve resolutions. Technically, this also needs its own map, so ideally you might want to create an input, because I'm kind of grabbing this from the outside, and you might want to have to create, you know, a map. What was it? There should be like resolutions, and here I might go ahead and create a map, which would be, for crying out loud, come on, we need a string map, and here we need endpoint value, and then instead of using this here, we would actually go ahead and grab this and put it over here. Now again, this is of course not ideal. You might want to have a local variable to set this up a little bit more appropriately, and ideally you might want to, but for now I'm going to leave this in like so. Okay, I'm going to delete both of these guys, and here sorry, my bad, and here I'm going to simply put this on like so. So there's something, right? Again, this isn't ideal because, you know, generally speaking, you might want to have some kind of comment. So you go ahead and comment this. Come on, you go ahead and comment this out after it's presumably fixed, because we got a lot of spaghetti sauce going on here. But let's just assume that I just did that. Again, it's just repositioning. There's nothing new to learn here. You know, just make sure whenever you're doing this, you know, use these nodes here for, you know, so you can sort of align this properly, and then don't drag several things of the same one. You could drag it off of here and continue on, right? Again, not going to do that right now because it's just a pain in the butt. And always comment. So I'm just going to say here, get all available, no, supported resolutions, add them to a map. No, not add them to a map. Convert them to a string, create a map with the string as values. Sorry, the string as keys and resolutions as values. Populate the combo box. And of course, you might want to have this combo box here outside of the function as well. If you want to use this on different combo boxes, right? It could be a generic function, but this is a specific function, so we're going to use that. Populate the combo box with and select and as well as set the resolution to the first option. Okay. Now you might think that this is a little bit overkill because I have this extremely long comment, but this is what you want to do for every function that you create. You want to have a comment here, and ideally you want to have the tooltip of your function to be that as well. Now, of course, this is probably not ideal, so I need to introduce an enter somewhere here, somewhere over here. So there's my enter. Okay, and maybe something like this. Probably another enter somewhere here. Well, no. We'll leave it like that. So if I compile, what do you want? Oh, yeah, okay. All right. Because I kind of deleted the connection, we need to retarget the map. There we go. Compile. If I go to the, if I go to my event graph and I hover over, why does it not have the tooltip yet? Oh, there we go. Get all supported resolutions, convert them to a string, create a map with the string as keys and resolutions as values, populate the combo box and select, as well as set the resolution to the first option. This is what you want to be doing for every function that you're creating that does something in the background, so that whenever you hover over it, you can get it. You can read the tooltip and what it says. Of course, it doesn't have to be the exact same copy of everything you've written here. I just did this so that I don't have to spend time rewriting it. But you want to explain almost all the time everything you do in the code, so that whenever someone else looks at it, it could be yourself down after a year. Right now, you might think, oh, this makes perfect sense. I'm just going to grab the each loop, right? I'm going to run through the resolutions, add them here, yada, 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 blah, 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 set the thing. And it makes perfect sense. And I guarantee you, after a year, after 3 months, you just sit down and take a look at what you've done, and you're going to be absolutely clueless. You're going to have to reread this entire thing. Okay, so I'm getting the supported full screen. All right. And then the for each, and what's the for each for? Where the hell does that map come in? What the fuck is this resolutions thing? Where does that come? So that's when you need the comments, and they're very, very helpful. Do not underestimate the power of a well-placed comment, especially when it comes to functions, because these are the things that drive your, these are logical operations that drive a lot of your logic, okay? For crying out loud, I don't know why I'm used to going with why do I do this with the designer thing. Okay, so there's our resolution. Yeah, this is a long video. You guys should probably have something to drink on your own side as well, or a snack or whatever. Now, we've got the resolutions covered and the volume covered, presumably. It should be working if it only fucking recognized that I got my thing here, unless I'm changing the wrong INI, which I'm not. The next one on the list is which one? What is next? Oh yeah, resolution scale. So the resolution scale, we got two approaches when it comes to the resolution scale, and that is to use either a normalized or a non-normalized value. If we get, let's just go ahead and say get game user settings, and here I'm going to get resolution information. We need resolution scale information because it's going to give us basically everything that we need here. Let's go ahead and take a look at what we've got. We've got the current scale normalized, we've got the current scale value, the minimum scale value, and the maximum scale value. Now the minimum and maximum are not actually normalized, so those because those the minimum and maximum are essentially these where to go is basically the smallest resolution the engine is capable of rendering. I'm sure it's smaller than this. I think it's smaller than this. But basically, you don't really need this. What you need is to set your resolution scale, assuming you're going to use normalized. And of course, if you want to use normalized, you might as well use a slider. But I'm just going to keep it simple. I'm going to say my minimum and maximum value is going to be from 0 to 1. That's the minimum maximum value. Now, you could say, okay, my minimum slider and maximum slider, in other words, because there's only so low you can go. Remember, even over here, when I went to reduce my resolution, I could only go down to 25 because you can't actually render it 2 by 2 pixels, okay? If you go to 0, you're going to divide the resolution to such a small amount that it'll basically be a blob, right? So there's a minimum resolution scale. Now, I'm not going to bother with setting up the appropriate sort of value that you can set because it clamps on its own anyway. So I'm pretty sure we're not going to have an issue on that. Now, how we're going to do this is essentially I want to bind its value. I'm going to create a binding here. And I'm going to bind its value to be the, well, I need to get, well, this is going to be, okay, let me just see. There's no way to cache this. See, the problem here, if I bind this like so, get game user settings. If I bind this like so, this will be called every tick. So every tick I'll be reading off the hard drive. And that's really not what I want, because this will work. Get resolution scale information, and I'm going to get my current scale normalized. And there's my return value, compile and play. You'll see that I have infinity. Because of course I do. Why is that? What's my current scale normalized? What the hell? What's going on? Maybe I should use just the regular. Of course, you could use regular current scale value. Yeah, we do have an issue here, so there's something to consider. So we're going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to go ahead and just delete this here. And we're going to continue on like so. So let's just say on startup, we want to set the value here. So I'm going to create a new variable, and it's going to be a float and call it resolution scale, and I'm going to call this, this is going to be, of course, a single float, like so. That's going to have a minimum maximum of 0 to 1, but, whatever. And here I'm going to set this to be the current scale value, normalized. That's the current scale normalized. And in my, what are you talking about? Oh yeah, the thing actually is looking for a binding. I'm going to use the resolution scale, in fact, and I'm not even going to remove this. So if I compile, I'm curious if this will allow me to, what's going to happen now? Okay, it's for some reason 0, 0, 0. Oh yeah, I'm not, I'm not executing. Of course I'm not. So I need to do this at the beginning of the actual game. So this is going to have to go into my construct. Now, of course, I could have a caching event, so I could do something like this. Perhaps, let's just say I want to cache the game mode, the player controller, the HUD. I want to cache a bunch of stuff. You just create a custom event, and call this cache, presumably. And, Jesus, I don't want to cache any achievements, just cache. Yeah, because, oh yeah, I do have a G here. So you would do something like this, and then you continue off your begin play execution, and this is where you do your caches, right? So you get your game mode, and then you get your player controller, and then you would get your, oh, I don't know, get HUD, get, what was it? Was it HUD, I think? No. Widget? No. What was it? Give me a sec. What else was I getting here? Well, something else I was getting anyway. Well, maybe player state. Why did I not want to get the player state? Oh, yeah, you need to get it off the player controller, of course. Get player state. No. Okay. What else can we do? There's nothing we can do. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, I'm not sure what else. I forgot what the other command was, but you could cache a bunch of these things here and just cast to whatever your game mode is, right? And you could do this over here as well and just save them as variables. I'm not going to do that because we're not going to need this in the options menu most likely. Now, I don't need the cache either. And if I go ahead and hook this up like so, we should have the resolution scale being set properly. Play. It's again infinity. Why is this infinity? It's very annoying. What if I remove my minimum and maximum value? What's it going to tell me? Still infinity. The hell? Yeah, that's interesting. Let me grab the regular resolution then. Still infinity. All right. Well, now this is very, very strange. This should not be happening. And construct. Okay, let's unhook this for a second, and let's unhook this for a second and just see. What's the default value? Let's say it's 0. Let's say 1 is the default value, which is the actual thing. We need to go ahead and say like in this video, things don't go very, very smoothly. There seems to be issues running left and right, which are very difficult to figure out why they're not doing. So let's just say that on value changed. I got the on value. I'm going to do the exact same thing as I did over here with the spinner, with a little bit of a difference. I need to get the game mode. I need to get the game user settings, right? And here I need to set my resolution scale normalized. Of course, assuming I do this with the 0 to 1 thing. So like so, and I'm going to set this to the value that we're currently setting. Now, I need to apply resolution settings, of course. Apply resolution settings. Boom. And of course, the target itself should be this one. This is just for testing. I'm not sure why it doesn't want to work properly on me. All right, let me just set this back up to 1 so I don't break the game. And yeah. But I cannot actually change that. Why can I not change it? Oh, because it's tied to resolution, of course. I forgot to... Oh, I probably needed to set this like so. Right? And then like so. And then like so. So that I can update the value as well. Right? Not just the actual resolution, but also the value. Let's just see. Can I change that? Yeah. So I got something like this. Now there's of course a problem here because I'm going from 1 to 0, and as you can see, 0 is not something you can do, and I'm not really changing anything. It's very strange. Apply resolution settings. Okay. Okay, this is very interesting now. I'm starting to doubt that my normalized actually means something. All right, let's do this with the actual value. Let's not do this with the normalized bit. There's my scale value. It should be like so. That's my current scale value. Grab this. Set my resolution scale to such and such. And then I need to set my, let's just say I'm going to use my minimum and maximum here. So if I grab, what am I looking for? Resolution scale spinner, and I set minimum value to minimum scale, and then max value to maximum scale. I'm not sure if this, but then again, this is going to change later. Okay, we had something is happening, but not what I'm looking for. Okay, what the hell? Oh yeah, because this is normalized, of course. We don't want to change that. But then resolution scale should be just fine. Because it's from 0 to 1. Compile. What if we play this now? Okay. Okay. It's progress, at least. It's not infinite. Ha. But it's very strange. Like, this should be... I don't know why there's such an issue here. You shouldn't be having this problem on your end. I think you just got a broken engine or something. But again, you know, usually you always blame the engine at first, but at the end of the day, it's something dumb you did on your own. Of course, I'm setting the normalized resolutions here, so I need to set resolution. Set screen resolution, screen resolution scale value to this, presumably from 100 to whatever. So we're going to do it like that. And compile and play, and please tell me that you're gonna work. What's wrong with you? See, it makes absolutely no sense. I believe that's a problem because I'm playing. Oh, maybe because I'm playing in the editor. Maybe that's it actually. I'm not sure. Wait for it to load. Monster, the fuel of the gods. Okay, god damn it, boy. Stop screwing around with me. Okay, now the resolution stopped working as well. All right. That's very unfortunate. Now everything stopped working on me. Let's see. What if I just unhook this entire thing and simply change the resolution? Let's see what happens. This really should be working now. Come on. See, that's what it says. Compile option successful. Yeah, it's compiling. Fairly long, but compiling. Let's see. Okay, now for some reason my resolution swapping broke. I think my engine's starting to fall apart because it did work just a moment ago. So maybe I just screwed something up with the actual game user settings because maybe I'm not saving them. I'm really not sure. But this is the method anyway. You just get your user settings and you grab your resolution scale. Yeah, I feel like I'm just showing you guys something. And it just decides not to work properly on my end. Yeah, this really shouldn't be an issue. Why do you not want to work? And this worked just fine a moment ago. Got the resolutions bit. Oh, okay, maybe this needs to be a local. Let's promote this to a local res. Right, okay. It doesn't know what to do. Okay, all right, that's fine. Let me just go ahead and try to rectify. Oops, how did that happen? Try to rectify this. There's my thing. There's one. What else needed it? There's two. Did I miss something? Compile. Yeah, I missed something. Of course I did. There we go. Need to do that as well. Oh, yeah, all right. Aha, I get it. I get it. We need to have an output here. That's what I did wrong. See, it's never the things, it's never the engine's fault, all right? Never the engine's fault. It's almost all the time it's just your dumbass. We need to have an output on this guy so that we can, because we're currently need to set this, you know. We could also pass by reference. Actually, this is probably better as well. You could say that this should be passed by reference, and then set this like so. So actually, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm passing by reference, and then I need to set this here. Where's my thing? Yeah, there we go. It should be like so, and instead of res, should just do like that, and like that. Oops, like this. I could of course use the local variable as well, but hey, who gives a crap? That's just because we're passing by reference. This should not be an issue. Compile. And this should be fine instead of having an output. Of course, I could create an output with the exact same thing as the resolutions, but this should work fine. What do you mean? What do you mean dead package 2? The hell? What? Okay, this guy's is getting super annoying. Pause menu. Why is this dead? Right. Okay. Save that. Okay. And then here. Play an editor. There's a fucking. What do you mean? What does that mean? Dead package. Jesus Christ. There's something. I need to restart the engine and figure out what the hell is going on. But let's just keep it simple for now. Let's see if we can change the resolutions. Yay! It's working. And my resolution scale is working. Well, it's not really working. It's just it just happens. Crap. I can't actually close this down now. Right. Okay. Well, that's it when it comes to this particular function. So I'm just gonna close this bit here, and we could try to sort out the user settings here. It's just that if it reads infinite, my guess it has something to do with the fact that I can't find the proper config file, because this should never be infinite. Like, that makes no sense for it to be infinite. So that's something. All right. So there's definitely something broken here, especially since I can't set the resolution scale. Maybe I need to multiply it. I can't directly set it. I'm not sure. I have to check on my own. But this is how you approach this, all right? So on your end, grab the resolution scale. If you run into problems, just Google it, all right? As you can see, I'm kind of stuck as well on this right now. I'm just not sure what's going on. Maybe it's because I'm talking and doing stuff at the same time, but my brain right now cannot give me a solution to the particular issue that I'm running into. Okay. That being said, we should go into quality. Right now, we're basically one for one. So volume works, resolution work. Well, volume actually doesn't work, but resolution works. Resolution scale doesn't work. So we better set up the quality to work. Now I'm going to show you only how to make a radio button, not how to assign each and every. Well, maybe I will do the one where we assign the proper user settings as well, but for now let's just do and see how we're going to adjust the quality thing and figure out how that's going to work. Now first of all, whenever you're creating a radio button, you need to consider that you're going to need, you're going to have to do this for every sort of menu set, right? So in my case, I've got 4 checkboxes: medium, low, high, and excessive. Also, it's probably a good idea to categorize some of these. So let's just put these into the proper sort of position. And what we need to do here is create an array, because we're going to have to check which one is selected at any given point. And I could do that by saying make array, and I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, 4. Now there's 2 approaches to this, by the way. Okay. Approach number 1 would be to have a variable that kind of stores the entire array. So I could say, okay, I'm going to grab this and I'm going to make an array, and I'm going to save this and store it on my own, in the hard drive, in the memory, in the RAM, and I'm going to read it whenever I want it. But for now, I'm simply going to make an array. And now I need to create a function that will somehow take an array and then also take a key and compare these two so that we can see which one is being pressed and which one isn't, okay? So what I'm going to do is create a function here. I'm going to call this resolve quality settings. Very simple. Now it needs an input, and I'm going to need 2 inputs for this. And it's going to be, the first one will be, how are we going to do this? how are we gonna do this? Let me see. There's two ways, right? So the first one, of course, let me just talk to you about the method that I'm not gonna use, and that is to use the binding situation here. We could bind this to a checkbox. Okay. In fact, you could bind this to a boolean as well, as far as I remember. So let's just see if we can create a bool real quick. Can I create a boolean? Bool. Compile, and I believe I should be able to grab this to parameter. There we go. So you could even do that and bind this to a boolean, and then figure out which, what's the story there. But I'm not going to do that because I don't want to bother with this particular setup. And of course, you have to create a binding for every single, for every single one of these. So you have to on value change, grab the boolean from is checked, and then set the boolean there. So you've got your setup in this way. Excuse me, Jesus Christ. Yeah, I've been talking for way too long, guys. Now, if we go ahead into the graph here, I'm going to need a checkbox. Both of these are going to be checkboxes anyway. One is going to be single one. The other one is going to be an array. Now, here is going to say checkbox reference. And here I'm going to say checkbox. Come on. Checkbox reference. Okay, so I've got two checkboxes. And I'm not going to be passing this by reference now. I don't want to be passing this by reference. And I'm going to say... what I'm going to say, this is going to be called element comparison element. Okay, and this is going to be checkbox array. Okay, now I'm going to have both of these, and generally speaking, I could create a local variable just so that I can do this, but we'll see. And I've got my resolve written wrong. That's just great, like so. What we need to do is compare. Okay, so remember, every time you have an array, you need a for each loop or for loop. Depends on what you want to do. You can also use the reverse for loop with breaks, right? All that kind of jazz. But for now, just going to use this. Now for each element here, we need to check if it's the same as this one. Oops. We need to check if it's the same as this one, right? So we're going to execute the loop, and then for each element of the array, we will be checking against the comparison element. Of course, if it turns true, that means that the comparison element presumably will be passing through the button that has been pressed. Yeah? You feel me there? Or you could also have, by the way, a checkbox. So you could use the is checked here. But I'm going to use this in a different way. So I'm going to grab my loop body. Now, in the off chance that we grab the one that has been checked, so these two are the same, then we're going to set its checked state. I need to set its checked state to true. Now, there's another method we could do as well. We could actually have an output. We could have an output of a checked state. I'm going to say, just state or checked, whatever. So I've got my output here, and I could do basically something like this, right? I'm going to create a local variable. I'll call this output state. And here I could say, all right, when it's true, I need to set my output state to be one thing, and then I need to set if it's false to another. So something like this. And of course, both of these need to terminate in our output node, which will allow us to actually output something here. So there's my output state. Now again, if we're looping through the body and we find that the comparison element is the same as the one we've checked, we need to check that element's state, okay, we need to basically send out a sort of checked state. So it has to be checked if it's true and unchecked if it's false. That's assuming, of course, that we'll be using this function for binds and such. Of course, I could also brute force this and just grab this state and set its checked state. Set checked state to true, aka checked, right? So instead of doing this, where I could perhaps call this function, right, resolve quality settings, I could call this function, and why is my result resolution empty? Oh, because it doesn't have any outputs. Great, okay. But I could do this, right? And I could grab my array, and then I could drive the particular button that's been pressed. So it could be this element here, and then in my output, I could say, okay, grab my thing, set check state to whatever I'm getting, whatever I'm outputting. Okay, so I'm gonna run this once, all right? But that's of course for the particular thing. And again, this is always going to return true anyway because we're running through the entire array. So instead of doing this, I'm simply going to delete this thing, and I'm going to delete this because I don't need that. And I'm going to basically set the state for each one of these guys, all right? So I don't even need this guy here. I'm going to use the array element. So I'm going to set its state to true, check if that's the one that we're looking for. I'm going to set its state to false, sorry, to unchecked if it's the one we're not looking for. Very, very intuitive, hopefully. All right. And since we're not going to have any outputs, this is really all we need. Now, of course, you could modify this to whichever method you want. You could maybe say, right, well, I do want to actually use this for many different things, not just for checkboxes. So this could be a wildcard. You could pass this stuff by reference, right? So that it could be anything, right? So it's entirely your thing. It could be an actor, a widget. It could be any widget, right? This could be a generic function. Not a generic for this because we only have one quality settings, all right? Now here, basically this would mean that if we, let me just see here real quick. Yeah, currently we've got this situation, but then the event graph, we're not actually hooked up to anything. So we need to kind of drive this in, grab my resolve quality settings, and I need to grab my array, which is fine, but we also need something to compare against, okay? And how exactly do you think we're going to do that? Well, we could call this every single time we're pressing a button. So let's just say, in my case, I got the low, on changed, and then on changed, and then on changed, and then unchanged. So I've got 4 unchanged bits, right? And there's 2 methods I could do, right? I could either use this array, and I could maybe compare it against something else, or I could say, all right, every time this is called. So first time I call this, I'm going to use a low. So I'm going to duplicate the low bit. Sorry, my bad. I'm going to say, come on, man. I'm going to say, all right, I'm going to use low here. Actually, this is not what I want. I want to use the low over here. Well, it doesn't really matter, but I'm going to use this low here for this guy. And this is going to be my number 1. And I'm going to call this again for this guy. And then I'm going to use this low. I'm going to, not this low, but this, sorry, my bad, this medium. I didn't really need this low bit here. I could use this, right? So I could do this a 3rd time, and then I could add this here and add high and just do it like that. And then I could do this the 4th time and grab this array and do excess. Now this is of course very ugly again. That's not what you want to do. I'm just trying to show you a concept here. So if I compile and play, what am I missing here? What am I missing here? Oh, I need to, yeah, I'm missing an array input. That's one, that's right. So if I compile and play, I get to check only one. So this works. Oh wait, what? It doesn't work. We're having trouble here with some of these. Why is excessive? Did I not hook up excessive? I did. Oh yeah, of course. Then hook it up like so. Play. And we've got low, medium, high, excessive, and then, you know. Yeah, so that's how it works. And then here, of course, you would go ahead and grab on each and every one of them. You'd grab perhaps your, we need another function, of course. So let's go ahead actually and create another function for the settings. So let's just do that. I'm going to create a function and say apply quality setting, something like this. And here's going to be a real pain in the ass. We need to grab probably a sequence, and I'm going to get game user settings. And this is going to be like, actually, I don't even need to do that here because we can't cache this, and this is where we're gonna start. I'm gonna start get game user settings, and then I'm gonna say, okay, get quality. No, we need to set texture quality to 1, right? And this needs to have an identifier. Okay, so there's that. But I basically need to do this for every single one. So I would say I could have this in one straight line, or I could just do it like that. Oops, I could just do it like this. There's 1, right? And I need to set quality, and we can go through the entire thing. Set anti-aliasing quality, and I would add a pin, and then get game user setting. That's why this is extremely, like, that's why menus are just such a pain in the ass. It's extremely annoying. Quality, and then we don't need audio. Well, foliage, we don't actually have foliage, so, but let's add it here just for the shits and giggles. So there's this one, and then I need another one, and here we're gonna get another. Come on, boyo. Get game user settings. I'm gonna do this again. I'm gonna say quality. What was it? Shadow quality. In fact, actually, shadow quality is something we do not want to change, because remember when I changed that, we kind of lost. We kind of lost the ball. So I'm gonna actually remove this. I don't want to change the shadow quality, but we could change the lighting quality, for example. Post-processing quality, yeah, that's something that we definitely want to lower. Add another one. Get game user settings. Let's go. Okay, there we go. And now, what are the quality we're gonna change? Foliage, post-processing. Well, texture quality. Duh. Obviously, do we have? Oh no, we already have that. God damn it. Okay. What else? Visual effect quality. Yes, and with visual effect and distance as well. So we want to do that. And here we want to do this as well, like this. Get game user settings. Jesus Christ, it's so annoying. And here I want to set quality to, for the, what is the view distance? We need to actually have the visual effects. I think that's basically it. There really isn't much else here to have. And these all require a value. Now, maybe I should just have this somehow middleized like so. Now we need to have some kind of value, and this value is best to be fed in, meaning that whenever we call the actual, quality settings here, we should most likely give it a identifier too. So another method to do this, okay, another method of doing this would be as follows. Now, instead of doing this, I mean, I could still do this, but another option would be to use a selector. All right, so how I would approach this is, let me see now. I'm gonna delete these guys. There's another method, by the way. Of course, this could work, and you could call, I could call the apply quality settings inside quality settings. I could apply quality setting, apply quality settings to the resolve. So after here, I could say, all right, apply quality settings, right? Both of them needs to call this. But then, of course, actually, no, probably not the best idea to be here. I should probably do this after I am complete. In fact, I could apply quality settings based on a checked state, but then this I would need also a. All right, there's just too many ways to do this, so I'm gonna do this a more visual way so that you understand what I'm trying to say here. But let's go ahead and create a selector, and we're gonna use a wildcard of, well, we need an integer, even though a byte would be a little bit more advanced. It's an 8-bit number. It can only go from 0 to 255, so it's useful for masks and stuff. But integer is a little bit, it's fatter, so you could say, yeah, we could feed a byte in, and then we could convert it to an int. So I don't know which one is going to be more expensive, byte to int conversions or just having a straight up int. I don't know. So let's use, I don't know. All right, let's just use an integer. All right, let's just use a damn integer because this is all. And then we've got different options. So we got 4 options. Add option pin. and we're gonna have to use this like so. In fact, this doesn't need it set just yet, so this is, we're gonna have this at the bottom here, maybe. Ideally, of course, it would be nice if we promoted this to a variable, but hey. And now I'm gonna call this guy from each and every one of these guys like so. Actually, I need to promote this to a variable here. I'll call this quality, and it's gonna be it's gonna need to have its own sets. So I'm gonna just set this guy several times. Again, this is not ideal. You'll probably be doing something like a loop through one of these. Again, it depends on how you want to approach this, because we only have one menu for settings. This isn't necessary. Ideally, look, in the most ideal situation, you would have this on its own sort of logic. So you'd have this entire row, so the populated row with all these 4, and then the name, and it would be in its own widget. Okay, you'd create like an entirely new widget for this, and then here in that new widget, you would populate it using the graph there. And then there you would resolve all these things. You'd do the logic for this there with a loop or something, and then it will require an input of, well, you know, what it is that you've pressed or something, whatever. But this is different. This is one of the ways you could do this, all right? So quality low is 0, quality medium is 1, high is, of course, 2, and naturally excessive is 3. We need to set this like so. All right, like so, and like so. And basically, this is going to be called, this is going to be set every time we do something. And you could make this a little bit prettier by stacking these together like this. And of course, we need to hook them up. Be nice. Be a good idea to hook those guys. Oh, god damn it. Let's go. There we go. It's 1. Oh my god, this is super annoying. 2, 3, and oh! Okay. All right. I don't want to break my monitor here. We need to also select here based on that variable here. So we're going to do this like so. Comparison element. Well, technically we need that element, so I'm going to grab both of these. I could also, again, it doesn't really matter what I do. This is just visual, but a loop will probably do a better job. Let's just keep it simple for now. All right. There we go. There we go. So there's my selector. And here I'm going to drive this in for comparison. And I'm going to be able, this should be working just fine. Target. What target? Oh, yeah, my bad. Okay. And all right, it's all set. So let's see if it works. Sweet. Okay, we still have the radio button, but now we have the ability to change the quality settings. So I'm gonna say I need to apply the quality settings. Do we have apply? Oh no. All right. Here we're gonna have to actually apply these. So because sequence goes from 0 to further down the line, we could actually apply them like this. Get game user settings. These are the, notice by the way that these user settings are actually the ones that are dirty, right? These user settings are not the ones that are on the thing, on the hard drive or in memory. On persistent memory. These are the ones that we just changed. So these are the ones that have all these values, which actually this needs an input. Oh boy. Okay, and this needs to be of type integer. It's going to be called quality. And oh boy, maybe I need to promote this to a local variable. Excuse me. Yeah, it's very annoying. Call this, of course, quality. Like so. What, you don't like it? Quality ID. Like so. And it's going to be set like so. And then here we could, this is just to have it a little bit cleaner. So I could use this like that and like that. And then I grab it one more time. It's the same thing anyway. It's just a reference. So I don't have to I don't have like too many spaghetti sauces going around here. Duplicate this one more time, like so. Probably better if I had it like this. So this is my quality ID. Whatever I pass in, it's going to be set. And now I'm going to set, apply non-resolution settings. These would be, I don't know, are these effects? These are kind of like, it could also apply all of them. This actually saves already. So apply actually saves it. Does it really? I don't think it does. I think you still need to save this, by the way. So let's just say, okay, we need to save settings just for the, just in case. Okay, automatically happens as part of the apply settings. All right, we don't have to do that. That's nice. That's very nice. It didn't used to be like that. Applying settings actually happened before. I think it was you were able to apply this. I think the other settings actually might not be doing this. Let me just see. Apply. Yeah, the applying bit does not actually save this. So, yeah, this actually applies them. So if you want to have a button that just tests stuff before saving the settings, this is what you would use. But then apply settings actually saves this to permanent storage. Okay. But let's just say that for whatever reason, that's how we want to roll. And here in the event graph, we need the quality bit. So, again, same quality. You can easily see that this could be used in a loop, right? The quality could be essentially the index or something, and then we could, as we loop through, figure out which one is checked, and the one that's checked is going to have its own quality, and the one that's checked is going to be the index, right? Because this has its own. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4, and you could use this, over here in a loop. So you could say, it would be something like this, right? For each. And you would say, all right, which array element is checked? And then if it's whichever one is checked, you're going to run this through. And here you're going to say, all right, well, if it's true, I'm going to call this apply settings, and I'm going to give it the quality, right? You could do something like this. But since I already have the quality, I'm not gonna run through the entire thing here. Just keep it very simple. I'm going to call this like so. Now this should hopefully work so that we're 2 for 2. We got low. Okay, medium, okay, high, okay, and excessive. Not much difference between high and excessive. All right, spot on. So we got 2 things working and 2 things not working. Again, this should be working on this side, and definitely this also should be working. We're gonna probably revisit this stuff again, as in later in the video, but I kind of want to ignore this for now since I want to talk about the controls. I realize this is a fairly long video, but there's a lot of stuff to talk about when it comes to any of these. Basically, the way you approach making a menu. So, take it how you, do what you will with the fact. You can either play it faster or whatever floats your boat. Excellent. Excellent. Fuel can. Now, we need to set up. I'm going to do this only for the jump, by the way, because this is getting ridiculously long anyway. So we got the jump. Now, in order to let's say this is my quality settings done. So quality, it's all done. Okay, quality. This is done. Very tedious, very annoying, highly bullshitty. And let's assume that this works correctly, and let's assume that my engine.ini actually gets. Oh, what? Where'd it go? Oh boy! All right, let's do this again. Maybe this time we'll fix it. Well, this actually needs to be public. Let's try this again and say that's why I don't know why I decided to. What the hell was that? Okay, we've got /game. /game. Maybe that's why. Maybe I forgot to have a slash there. I don't know. Is that what happened? I think I had the slash. Anyway, we've got the game /GUI is this GUI options dot options underscore C, and here we're gonna have volume 0.6. Okay, let me just reread this one more time so I'm absolutely positive that we have, of course, an equals like this. But let me see, you've got the engine.ini under /game/GUI/options.options_C. All right, save this. File save. Control S a couple hundred times and close this thing. Okay, and let's play this in a standalone game. Why? What the fuck is a dead package, man? How is there a missing file name? Where is the missing file name? Please tell me then just delete the engine. Okay, it's here. Yeah, I don't know what the hell is wrong with this thing. It's just randomly doing crap. There's a dead package. I've never seen that before, so probably something I have to restart the computer or whatever. I'm not sure. Anyway, let's forget about this for a second, the selected viewport, and we can continue here with our setup. Now, we need to go ahead and set up the controls, and for this, we need to take a look at the controls themselves in the first place. There's my project settings. If I go to the input, you'll see that we've got several different sort of options. We've got the jump, which is default. We don't really use this. I don't really need this either, so I could just remove that. But we're going to use the player 1 jump for this case because we'll be working on the player 1. Now notice that these things have their own names. And if you want to access it, you need to get the names of them as well. Notice that you also have access mappings, and they have their own scale value, so you need to have that appropriately adjusted as well. Now, how does that exactly work? If we go to the, let's go ahead and just take a look at the input key selector in the first place. Now, as you can see here, my key does not have bindings. I can't actually bind this, which is an issue. Okay, there's no binding I could use here. So my only sort of method here is to use the on key selected and on key selected changed. Now, the difference between these two is if this is what's going to happen if I click this, this is when this is going to fire. And if I press escape, this is going to fire again. But if I click this and press like some kind of key, then this will fire. All right. To illustrate, let's just create both of these real quick so that you see what I'm talking about. I'm going to print string in both cases. And here I'm going to say that this string is going to be green. So it's going to be green whenever we actually select the key. What did I just close? I just closed something. Whatever. If we play this, you'll see that I got, boom, hello. Hello again. And well, then once I select the key, it'll actually fire off. Notice that even though I'm selecting a key, it still fires off twice. Okay? Maybe blue is not the best color. Let's go for red. Okay, so you've got once. Okay, maybe this isn't the best color as well. But I hope you get the idea, all right? So why would you use this? Well, on key selected changed, you probably have something like, you want to save the previous key so that whenever the player decides to change it, although this happens by default, and I press escape, it's still S. So there's that, but you want to bind the key, right? So let's go ahead and try to get the key first in the first place. I'm going to use this. I'm not going to use the on is selected key changed. I want to go for on selected key, just that, because it gives me a key output. Now, what can we do with this key? First of all, if I split the structure pin, you'll see that it's got the selected key Shift, Control, Alt, and Command. This is pointless because we're not going to be using modifier keys, but in your case, you might want to actually have those booleans exposed if you want to do something with them. I'm going to recombine this for now, and I'm going to need to get my input. Now, you might think that the input is in game user settings, but it isn't. If I do some user input, no. Mappings, no. Keybinds, no. Nothing here. Reason for that is because there's actually a different node called get input settings, and there it is. It actually does not inherit from anything, you just get it on your own. Now the input settings basically reads the entire value set of your input over here. Okay, so you've got your everything over here, everything in this window, everything in default, whatever input INI is available to you here. So if I say, I don't know, let's see what we got. Let's say get, and let's see what we've got. We've got access names on the settings, access mappings, input settings. Well, we already got that. I should probably favorite this. Well, probably, I don't know. But let's just say we need to get the action mapping by name. Sorry, action mapping by name, because we have the name, we know the name. But I could also use some logic to, you know, if I've got many, right? You can imagine if I got like 20, 30, 40 action mappings, and God knows how many axis mappings, this is going to be a real, like a little bit of an issue, right? Now, I'm allowing for 2 keys in this case. The spacebar is the default one, so this is actually 1. This is an array, all right? You understand this is an array, and the first one at the bottommost key is 0. This is 1. If I added more, it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. But because it's an array, it starts from 0, and we need the thing. We're going to change the thing at 0. Spacebar will always be available, just as number 0 will always be available as a jump. This is just because I feel like it, all right? I'm not going to create a menu with multiple optional controls for a game that is just basically a pair of worms playing volleyball. All right, a very simple game to control, no need for that, especially since we might start adding gamepad controls. But for now, let's just keep it very simple and use basically change the W and the up. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to use player 1 jump, P1 jump. That's the action name. Now we could also get the, again, get action names by, get all action names. And then I could perhaps run through this, and then for each, I could run for each, and then in each array element, I could perhaps compare this to something, or maybe it contains, I don't know, actually this is not what we want. It's a text operation, so you could say, okay, well that's not a lot you could do actually with the damn thing. Well, you could grab each of these action mappings and just hook it up over here maybe and just get all the mappings out of that. But anyway, the point is that over here we still have an array, and I could again loop through the entire array and set this up. But I'm gonna grab the first element, which would be, I need by the way a reference because I want to change it. All right, and I'm gonna use the first one because this is W. All right, I want to change W. Now, in order to do that, I need to first remove W from my key binding set. So I'm going to have to go ahead and get my input settings, and I'm going to say remove action mapping. And which action mapping I'm going to remove? I'm going to remove this one because it's got actually the action name P1 jump. I'm going to remove this one, and then once I remove it, generally speaking, you might want to have a backup or have this have a function that backs up the previous key, and then the selected key is going to be applied. But I'm not really going to bother with that. Action mapping, and I'm going to add action mapping. There's no way to replace it. All right, this is the only way you can replace it as of now, and I'm going to replace it with, oh god damn it. Okay, this needs to have its own. Actually, there's 2 ways you can do this, right? You could. What's the story? Oh god, okay, we need to, alright. Might be easier if I simply make... Seriously? Wow. Alright, well, unfortunately, that's the only way you can do this right now, is to split the structure pin and just dunk the key in. Very annoying. I kind of thought I could break this into, just have like a... Can I make mapping? Make mapping. Oh yeah, I can do that. All right, well that's nice. So I could just recombine this guy, put in the key. Oh no! Haha! God damn it! Well, you're screwed. All right, well, the previous method is the only method then. That's of course assuming you want to use these as well. You might want to have to hook this up. That's just because this structure has a name in it, and kind of like you should be able to, you could run this like so, right? You could actually collapse this. This one is the same as these. So here, however, I'm getting the mapping already. So you could do some fancy logic and get the action name from here and maybe add it somehow or whatever it is you're doing. But this is very simple for now. I'm only showing you the concept because theoretically you might have to do this for every single one. If I compile and play, and notice that right now, let's just take a look at the project settings here on the input. We've got W, all right, player 1 jump. Now, if I go ahead and set this to T, and I continue, can I jump with T? No, I can't. And why is that? I removed my, oh yeah, my bad. This needs to have, this actually needs to have a player one recording name. So player one jump. Compile and play. T. And this, oh crap, this will actually remove the spacebar now, is it? Ah, I screwed it up. I screwed it up. Okay. We need another one, and this one's gonna be basically spacebar. Yeah, sorry about that one, guys. Notice, by the way, that I'm currently changing my, let me just see, jump does work and T does work. Let's go back and change it to W. And now W works and T works, but spacebar doesn't work. Okay, let's do this again and change this to spacebar. Well, we don't actually want to do it. We want to do this to W, and then here we want to change this to spacebar. Okay, now anyway, the point is that, as you can see, this is changing the access mappings inside the project, but that is not gonna work in a standalone game because you need to save the settings, save the access mappings, I believe. Save key mappings. That's what you need, dude, or dudess, whichever you are. You need to save this if you want this to work. If it doesn't, if you don't do that, and we play in a standalone game. Yes, I get it. Yeah, I get it. It's a dreadful thing. Something is missing. Did it delete it? No, volume is still there. Okay. So as you can see, if I play this, I got W and spacebar. Now, if I go ahead and press, let's say, T, and I continue the game, this all works fine, and T works fine. But if I leave, like if I restart the game, like if I actually exit the session, this stuff is not going to be saved. Okay. So just be aware of that stuff. You need to save your key mappings if you want to retain them through gameplay sessions. All right, so that's something you need to do. And same thing applies, by the way. The method is exactly the same for for access mapping. So, and of course we need to actually set up the no key specified text. So let's just say, unfortunately, there's no way to bind that. So you kind of need to do this in your. You kind of have to do this in your construction, so you have to go ahead and say, that's why it's best if you had if you created this in a separate user widget. But let's just say here that I'm gonna basically grab my player one jump key. In fact, I could grab in this case, it would probably be best if I made an array of these guys and then grabbed all the things, like you have an array for the action mappings and have an array of the axes of the axi. But anyway, set, what was it, empty? No. What was the thing again? No key specified text, okay. Set key specified, set key selection text, no, set no key specified text, there it is. And the text itself could be really anything, but we are presumably going to get input settings, and here we're going to grab get action mapping, get action names, and here we're going to get probably jump or something. Of course you could say, basically you could just say, well, we need to get the names anyway, and then after we're going to run, I'm not really going to do this right now because I kind of don't really know how I would approach this right now, because this has a name and this is a text. You need to convert this to text, then you do something like that, but you need to check if this particular name equals to whatever. So this would be something, some kind of comparison, or I'm not sure what I can do with name actually. Let's see if I can do what I can do with name. Yeah, well, you could use a switch, for example. That'd be nice. You could switch on name, and then depending on the selection, you could do whatever you want. But let's just say that I'm going to grab get action names. I'm just going to get a copy of whatever 0, and I'm going to plug this right in here. Okay, and if I play this, actually, I need to hook this up as well. Not going to use the for loop for now. I just want to show you the concept. And I'm not going to play this in a standalone game. And I've got the jump. Actually, I don't need the name. Sorry, my bad, guys. my bad. I need the, not the action names, but I need the action mappings. Action mappings, get action mappings by name. And I need to grab the player one jump. And I need to get that. And get a copy of 0 and, oh boy. Key, can I convert this to string? To string, no, oh boy. You get key display name, and then you dunk that here, and then you get your W. It's currently W. If I have this at 1, it's going to be spacebar, which is the default one. And of course, ideally, you'd have 2 of these guys, and they're going to be they're going to be responsible. You're going to have like an optional thing, so you could create like a secondary one on Universal Grid or whatever. But this is just how you would display the thing, and this is how you would apply the thing. Now, however you want to do this, you could do this on a per. What I'm going to probably end up doing is just create this binding on its own. So instead of dumping it over here, I will probably just create a widget for binding, right? And I'm going to put this over here, and then I'm going to do whatever it is I want to do. And in fact, generally speaking, it's always best to actually, you could even grab the, do the same for the text here. But I'm simply going to do this on my own after the fact, because this is just too annoying. And again, the same thing applies for accesses, all right? Now, because we have, by the way, one more thing here. Let's say I'm going to get access mappings by name, and I want to do, let's say I've got only one axis, by the way, which is left-right. Remember, if we take a look here, I have only one axis, left-right, for player 1. And then I've got the player 2 left-right, which means I got 2 separate bindings for the same axis. So we need to kind of check if it's plus or minus. So let's just say we need the first axis mapping. This is my axis mapping, okay? So there's going to be player 1. I forgot what was left, right, was it? Oh, right, left. I'm just going to copy this thing. Player 1, left, right. Okay, and I'm just going to put this here. And I need a reference to the first one. And then over here, the axis mapping names, I need to actually, well, break this up probably and check if scale is less than 0. Less than 0, then I'm going to do this. If it's more than 0, so it's like going to be a branch. Obviously, you could do this off a for loop, but since we only have one thing, there's no point. So in a branch here, if it's true, if it's less than 0, then I need to add, basically I need to copy this thing. Actually, I don't, because I need, okay, this is going to be super annoying. Remove axis mapping. Okay, and this is going to be fired off when true. So you need to also add axis mapping. Add axis mapping. This is very bad form, guys. Don't do this on your end. I will have to refactor most all of this stuff anyway. This is just annoying. A lot of time is just being sunk on this. So I'm simply showing you how this is done, and then I'm gonna redo this on my own to make it a little bit prettier. But as you can see, the process is exactly the same, with the difference that you actually have a scale. So there's that. So you could use the the thing, and on true you're going to do one thing, and then on false you're going to do another, but these are essentially the same thing. So here, if it's true, you're going to bind this with a, so wait, now with -1, and if it's false, you're going to bind this to 1, which is fine. And then you grab the key, sorry, yeah. Okay, so we need to do this on the axis mapping here. So there's that as well. Kind of forgot to do that. Key selected. There's my axis mapping, right? And you fire this off of here, and then you remove this key. All right, you remove this key off this name, and you pretty much do the same thing here. Actually, you have to remove it on this side as well. Very annoying, I told you guys. And this is, again, a loop will do a much better job. But then, of course, you've got the binding itself, so kind of have to split the structure pan here as well, and this should be -1, and this should be 1, and then the key selection should be, come on, man, are you serious? Are you serious? There we go. Something like this. I'm not going to do this because this is going to, I'm not going to demonstrate this because this is going to screw up. What am I missing? Yeah, input settings. I'm not going to show you this because I don't want to screw up my project with the axis mappings. Or I could, I don't know, but whatever. Okay, let's just say I wanted to change it from, let's just do this. So currently, I'm getting the first one, the first axis mapping, which is actually going to be an issue because I need to do this on each and every one. But because I'm currently doing this on the player one left, I'm only going to change the left key. So let's just say I want to have my left key to be Z. And if I do this, I should be able to say Z. And if I continue, okay, I lost my D. Okay, my Z is being both. I kind of screwed this over because I believe my Z. Oh, I didn't assign. Oh crap! I forgot to assign the damn thing. Okay, D. Oh god, are you joking? Okay, I kind of forgot to assign this because my key mapping name needs to be the same. So there we go. Again, a function with a loop will do this much better. Like this is ridiculous, you know, in general. So again, Z, and if I play the game, I can move left, but if I want to move right, I move with Z. So that's how that works. All right. I'm gonna remove this situation, by the way, because I'm not very happy with Z being my default thing. Again, you would probably want to do this, test this out on a standalone game so that you don't screw up your engine input. So there's my Z. As you can see, it got changed. So I'm going to go back to D. And I'm going to close this because we're not going to be doing anything anymore with those buttons. Again, figure out on your own what's the best approach, in your opinion, how to do any of these. I'm just showing you. Let's just say that this is, of course, my controls. No, keybinds. Something like this. Okay, the last one on the list is the color. This one is very simple. Because the color here is available as a normalized thing, as you can see here, color and opacity, you can bind this. And as you can see, the numbers are normalized, so that's very nice. If I create a binding, let's go ahead. Actually, it's possible to do this outside. So you could, now here, you could create a color and opacity variable like so. Just call it something. MB color. I believe regular color will be fine. I'm not sure. Yeah, it's got blue, green, red, and alpha. That's what we want. And if I go ahead and add this here, I split this guy. Okay, oh, but this is in bytes. But technically that's what you want because bytes are 250, 0 to 255, but we're going to have normalized values. So no, not going to do it like that. It is possible, and I think you'll be able to add it. No, okay, add it here. All right, no, did I compile? Yeah, it exists. So as you can see, you've got different colors you can have here. So that's one way you can approach this, but I'm going to do this inside the binding. Although this is not the best, again, because it kind of runs on update, so maybe not the best. But let's bind this to something. Let's bind this to a function. Did I delete this variable here? I deleted it. I need to compile so that this guy does not have the binding. Okay, so there's my function here, and it's asking me for a color. Now, if I break this down, you'll see that it takes a red, green, and blue value. all I have to do is get my player one blue. Of course, again, an array will be able to do the same job. So that's why, this is why, by the way, it's much easier instead of doing this by hand to add these guys using code, because after that you already have the array available for you to work with. But because I added these by hand, right, I actually have to go ahead and create my arrays on my own and drag stuff off on my own. Therefore, if I created this by an array, I already would have the code. I'd have to just go into the function that creates it and do whatever it is I want to do with it. But for now, it's just an example, right? So it doesn't really matter. We've got the color green, blue, red. Player one red. Where's player one red? There it is. So we've got these two, and I need to get value, and get value. I've got red, green, and blue, so let's go with red first. There's my red. Boom. I've got my, why do I have two blues? What's the story here? Play one green. I got my green, so there's that. Come on. There's that, and then I've got my blue, like this. All right, and like that. I'm not going to give the player the option to change the alpha, the opacity, in the words of the guy, because, you know, why would I do that? And let me just make this a little bit more compact. And now in the designer, all I got to do is get these guys and set their minimum and maximum value to 0 and 1 respectively. And of course, I could bind their values to, you know, the respective colors. So I could say, by default, this color is going to be whatever, and then this is going to have its own. So I could say, all right, well, I'm going to bind this guy to the red channel of this image color. So let's just say I do something like this. Create binding, and this is going to be, what's its face? Let me grab the player one color, and here I'm going to get, this is the red, right? So get red. Oh, my bad. Get color and opacity. Split the structure pin and drive the red in. I would have to do this for every single one, so in order to hook this up correctly, so it would be something of the sort of this, and then create another binding, and here I would do the same sort of situation. Get color and opacity, and I need to split this guy and get my green, and then here I need to, here I need to do the same on this guy, bind the value, and here I need to grab my color and opacity. No, my bad. Get color and opacity, split the structure. Very annoying. I told you guys, this is where you will learn to hate menus, because it's just annoying. So yeah, and then if I set the default color, let's say, so that it's not just black, let's just say it's something like the default will be pink, or, well, green. Now if I play this, we've got green, and it's automatically set to something, and then I could modify this to, why can I not modify this? Oh yeah, I need to actually have an on value changed on these guys. Of course. Well, maybe it wasn't the best idea to set these two, actually, now that I think about it. Because this needs to be set all, this is being set all the time. Yeah, this is kind of not what I want. All right, it's in the wrong spot. It has to be in the event construct. You only have to do this in the beginning. So what you would probably do is, that was my bad, guys. I'm sorry. This is just getting a little bit too long, and I'm starting to lose my sort of ability to properly think here. So I'm going to delete these guys. 1, 2, and 3, and then in my event graph, event construct, I would grab something like my player one green, blue color. Well, I actually would need the color as well, and then the red. And then here I would go and make an array. Or I could just do this manually, but whatever. Oh, 1, 2, 3, and then for each array, for each, can I get things? Get color and opacity. And I need to make an array out of this as well. Split structure pin. So we got, crap, we got blue, green, and red. Let's go ahead and red, green, blue, go for red, green, and blue. Something like this. And make an array here as well. Whoa, 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 whoa. I just, array, boys. 3. 1, 2, and 3. So like so. And then here, kind of gonna have to get, I'm gonna have to run 3 gets, but whatever. This is my execution pin, like this. And here I'm gonna say, all right, for each one of these, I want you to set value to add a for loop. The array element. What did I do now? No. Oh my God, what am I doing here? My bad, guys. Sorry. Get a copy. Like this. Yeah. Set value. Now if we compile, it should run, and we should be getting the right adjustment values here, and that's how it works. So that's the color. That's pretty much everything that you will probably need. Again, the way you approach this is entirely up to you. I'm sorry, guys, but I don't feel like figuring out why the scale doesn't want to work or why the volume doesn't want to work. I figure it has to do something with the way the engine is just kind of screwed right now, or I have something called dead package or something. Volume at least exists, so the volume should work. That's how you do. This is how you create a configurable, and also the resolution should work. Unless I made a grave error somewhere along the way, I really shouldn't have an issue with whether you use normalized or current scale. It doesn't matter. So I'm gonna do this on my own later. I'm just kind of just, my mouth is tired of talking, but I don't think I've missed anything that is, that you might run into that you're not gonna be able to solve using any of these methods. Now, of course, they're kind of rudimentary and they're not very polished, and this is just ugly. But realistically, guys, the entire menu system is just ugly. The way you set it up is just annoying, and that's why it's usually better to create it using the code itself. So you would instead of just dragging and dropping stuff, you just create yourself your own button and just populate the stuff with the button. And anytime you need an element, just create your own element. This allows you to style it easily as well. With that being said, I think I'm going to leave you on that note because there really isn't much I can simply add to the conversation. At the end of the day, you've got yourself a volume. Yeah, even though it doesn't read off the configurable right now, you can still slide it on and off. You can also write something in, and it's going to clamp, so you can't go over the maximum or minimum value. You've got the graphic settings, which do work, so you can go for whatever. Right? These do work. Resolution scale does not for some reason work, but whatever. You've got your quality, which could be low, medium, high, or excessive. Of course, notice by the way that this isn't set on launch. Like so, as you can see, it's not selected. So you kind of need to do the same procedure here that we did. You need to do the same procedure here, but you have to get it. So this is like, you have to get all the settings and then compare their IDs, and they have to be the same, and you kind of have to set it. So what I would do is simply, instead of doing that, I'd simply set everything to maybe medium or excessive at start, at launch. Instead of just getting it and applying it, I would simply do that. Or maybe you'll run a loop or something, figure out which one is available, which one has to be checked. It's basically a relationship you have to figure out on your own there, how you want to do it. And then, of course, you've got the the actual controls here, control binds, which do work. I showed you how to do actions. I showed you how to do axes, axi, whatever. I showed you how to do a color. Now again, we will pull this color later, but for now, this is what I'm going to be using. If you want to, if you're a little bit more adventurous, you could actually create your own color picker if you want. But this is a very small game, and really color is as much customization as the player's going to get. So there's really no way to drag anything, no gradients or anything here to just choose from. It's definitely possible, right? But it's up to you. And of course, basically make sure that your buttons work, because right now they don't. Yeah, make sure to download all the sounds that you want, because I'll be adding the sounds in the next video after I'm done, cleaning this damn thing up, because refactor a couple of things. This is usually best done during the polishing pass, but I find working with menus just so extremely annoying that I rather do it once and be done with it properly, and just and simply work with style on the menu rather than the actual code inside it. That's why I kind of prefer to have my functionality set up properly, and then the rest of it should fall in place, after the fact. Okay? All right, guys. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.